Waxateria. Everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Wax TV. Tonight we got Vince Valor. It's going to be a great show, so let's check it out. Let me just start off by asking you, like, before being in wrestling, what was the time where you were like, I'm going to be a wrestler? Like, when did that click for you? Or did it not happen that way?
I don't know if it ever really clicked for me of like I need to be a wrestler, but like wrestling was such a huge part of my life growing up. It's something I never grew out of. You'll talk with people and they'll say, I used to watch wrestling, but or I used to watch it way back then, and like I never had that. It was something I never really grew out of. Then like when I became of age and realized like okay, I can go to a training school and learn how to do this and like actually do this for real, like it was a no brainer.
Do you remember your first match?
My first like the first match I wrestled in, or the first match I've seen.
First match you wrestled in.
First match I wrestled in, I honestly don't, because I was thrown in such opportunities that I wasn't ready for early on. So like it's really hard to pinpoint like what my first experience of it would be. But yeah.
Do you have any memorable early on experiences where you were like, "Oh shit, what I get into"?
Yeah, just being thrown into battle royals. I had no clue of what I was doing, and just put in unsafe environments like that, just to be out in front of a crowd. It's a nervous feeling to be out there for the first time. And then once you get more comfortable, once you get more experience with it, it becomes a lot easier.
What year was your debut?
I debuted in 2010.
All right, so 2010. So now it's like 15 years. Let me ask you a question. How has the indies changed? Like, what's the number one change that you see in indie wrestling?
It's better in some ways. It's worse in some ways. Depends on who you ask. It depends on how you look at it. I'd say it's a lot more accessible than ever has been. Whether it be like you're trying to find places to wrestle, or just trying to find a foot in the door into wrestling, or just trying to watch wrestling. Like there's you look at all the, not even just on like the major companies, but you look at all these streaming services for indie companies. You're able to watch any wrestling you can. You're able to. There's much more options as far as training schools and companies to work for, and I feel like when I started, so I run the school in Buffalo Wrestling Academy. We didn't have wrestling schools in Buffalo, so I had to train in Rochester, and then I moved away to Canada to train. But now it's become a lot more accessible to where it's, I don't want to say easier to get into the business, but it's not as hard as it once was to be able to find your way into it.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. I mean, I know that, a lot of people that had to like really look to seek people out that wanted to wrestle. If you were a wrestler, maybe not in places like New York or whatever, but in other places, if you wanted to wrestle, it wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to go to like a, Brazilian jiu-jitsu place that's in town, or a karate dojo. It's like, there might not be a wrestling school too close. So, but that's cool that now you're seeing more places like that. Maybe some of your students won't realize how good they have it, like that they get to go to a wrestling school close, but whatever. Everybody's experience is different. And yeah,
I
that's
try to
cool.
remind them of that, so just reminding them of like the things that they have now or things that I didn't have back then. And like I said, it's a good and a bad thing. Like it's good that like it's okay, it's accessible for people who want to get in the business, but it's also a bad thing because there's a lot of people that are in the business that probably shouldn't be. So there's really no like filtering in and out with that type of thing.
Yeah.
Hey Vince, did any wrestlers influence you coming up?
Um, like from a fan's perspective, or people that might have mentored me, or
Yeah, maybe mentor and maybe even fan. Like, who did you enjoy watching, back in the days, and who influenced you maybe to some of your style in the ring?
my favorite wrestler of all time is Eddie Guerrero. He's the one who inspired me the most. Not so much my in ring style. Like I like as much as I can watch Eddie Guerrero as a fan, but I can also watch to learn from him. But I wouldn't say I picked up so much of what he does in the ring. Like I could study the things he does, but like I learned a lot from. I watch a lot of guys. I watch a lot of Christian, who I feel is one of the most underrated talents of all time. I watch a lot of Dean Malenko, watch a lot of Bret Hart. So I pick little bits and pieces of what worked for some of those guys and try to make it my own. But yeah, those are some of my influences to watch.
Dean Malenko, that's an underrated wrestler right there.
Sure is, yeah.
Really is. He was a tough dude.
Yeah, so is Christian, man. That's a good call. I mean, there's a lot of great people in wrestling. We talk about like I remember about 5 or 6 years ago, I was watching WrestleMania, and I looked at the card, and they had the undercard. And at this time, it was really WWE, and there wasn't really anything else. It was before AEW. And I was like, wow, this is why competition's important, because you got like a whole roster of people on the undercard that are amazing wrestlers, and they're not even gonna get seen. Like most people aren't gonna watch that.
Yeah.
So which brings me to my next question. Like, because I know in the indies, the heart of wrestling's in the indies. There's competition with the new WWE like indie ID thing. What are your thoughts on that? Do you know what that's about? Because I've heard things about how like they're sending wrestlers to like bigger indie promotions. Obviously, they're not going to, they can't send it to all indie promotions, which I think is one good thing. But like,
Right.
what do you feel about that? Like that indie? I mean, if it helps you guys out, I think it's great. I just don't know what to think about it. So, wondering what
I've got a few friends that are into those contracts. It's a good thing to it's a good thing to keep an eye on, because it gives, like, let's say some of those guys are booked on an indie promotion, it gets more eyes on whatever that indie promotion it may be. But a lot of it is just, it creates new opportunities for people that I feel like some of the guys that got signed through it are people that WB already had their eyes on, and now they can put that label on them and then keep a closer watch on them to see how they progress through the indies before throwing them in a situation they might not be ready for on television. So like they'll put them under the contract, they'll send them to all these indies, get them the experience, keep a close eye on their work, and then see how they progress and take things from there.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, it's interesting because like I said, you can never. There are so many indie promotions, which I think is a great thing, and you're never going to be able to infiltrate all of them or have your fingers in all of them. And
Right.
that said, there are always guys that come out of nowhere. You're like, wow,
Yeah.
look at this guy. Have you seen this guy? He's amazing. He's funny. He's great wrestler. And a guy can come out of anywhere. It's like same thing with music. So that's a cool. I think it's good if it's helping guys out in the indies. I think that's awesome. What are your favorite indie shows? I know those Empire State shows are insane. Are those like among the favorite of your shows to wrestle at? Because they look insane on video.
Those are some of my favorites. That's my home company around here, Empire State Wrestling. I'm a regular at Greektown Wrestling in Ontario. Though like, it's got such a great vibe there. It's like Canadian ECW. It's a great locker room, great atmosphere, great company to work for. I wrestled for Neo Pro Wrestling in Canada, which is where I trained at actually. We just had a show there this past weekend, so it's just a great atmosphere. I like to surround myself with places where like it's just a great atmosphere to be a part of.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Shows
Hey
are good.
Vince, how did your family and friends and growing, when you got into wrestling, were they your family and friends supportive, or were they like,
No,
what
not at all.
the hell are you doing?
I was always that weird kid that liked wrestling, and like when I grew up and liked wrestling, like not everybody did. So it was like I was that weird kid in school, and then it was just like, okay, I grew up playing football too, and it was something that like, but like, okay, I graduated high school. I realistically I wasn't good enough in football to ever really go anywhere with it. So it was like, okay, like I could transition over to wrestling, and it was something I always loved too. And yeah, like my family, like they're supportive of it now. I think then they didn't quite understand. Not that they didn't quite understand it, they just didn't realize how far I was going to go with it. Um, my dad was a fan of it. Like my dad used to bring me all the shows whenever WB was in town and things like that. Um, my mom was a nervous wreck whenever like she would come to see shows and things like that. But now, like, been doing this for 15 years, she's seen me wrestle for that long, so it's just she knows what to expect out of it. So like, not that they were against it or that they were overly supportive of it, but it was a way of easing them into it.
I could understand. Me and Joe were both in the music business in the younger days. I mean, we still do it, but I mean, like, we were really young, and he could say the same thing as me. When I was getting into music business, I had uncles and like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
they're going to college, and I'm running around trying to get a record deal, and it's just like, so I could relate. It's the same type of thing. It's just people look at you, and then years later they look back and they say, oh wow, yeah, okay, but when you
yeah,
first said you were going to go do it professionally, it changes everybody's mind.
yeah.
That's cool though.
Yeah, it is weird. It's that's for sure. That's for sure. People, when it comes to stuff like art, and to me, wrestling's an art. So they're gonna say, wait a minute, you need something solid in your life, and obviously everybody does. But to go with your dreams and go with the wrestling, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you stuck with it because I
To
feel
be
like
able to live out your childhood dream like that, it's like not many people could say if they did that.
yeah,
It's a cool
Exactly.
thing to do. Yeah,
Let me ask you a question. Like, were you psyched? And if it's not, it's cool. Were you psyched when you got on the card when Robbie Vega? Just because like some guys are so psyched to be on the card, and some wrestlers we put them on the card, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, thanks. So it's different with everybody. If you were into cards as a kid, it might have been a big deal. Like the Chiefs was so psyched when he was on the card, and it was like a big deal. Was that like were you ever into wrestling cards growing up or anything like that?
I wasn't too much into cards growing up, but like when Robbie had mentioned it, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like I've had things like that before, but like this wasn't like this one was different. It was cool. Like the way it was presented and things like that. It's like this one was different. I was psyched to be a part of it. It's awesome.
That's cool. Oh, so are you on other cards, bro? Oh, this.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, and also this is the 101. I check because we send a 101 or an autograph with it, and when someone buys a set, and I said, let me look, and I looked, and there's only a few of these left, and one was yours, so nobody got this, but we want to send this out to you so you can have it forever.
Hell yeah,
This is a 101, so there'll only be one of these.
that's awesome. Hell yeah, love that.
Beautiful card,
Definitely.
man. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite shots, though. I mean, it's a great looking card, man. That's a great photo.
yeah.
Screams wrestling, man. That's like
Yep.
a big for us. Like the cards are important. That the photo looks like it's about wrestling. So like your picture was like, wow, this looks as wrestling.
This could be on like an 85 tops card, like just
Yeah.
this shot. It's just it's time. It's a timeless wrestling shot.
Yeah, very cool, man. Very cool. Um, so let me ask you something about wrestling now. If there was anything you could change, or is there anything you don't like about, like, say, the big stage wrestling that you could change that you saw back, when you were coming up that you wish was different now?
Um, it's kind of hard to really pinpoint of like one thing I would change. But I mean, there's a lot that I would change. I mean, I feel like what I'm doing now is a part of that change, if that makes sense. To where like a lot of people will go into this business with the idea of leaving it better than what they found it. I feel like what I'm doing now with training at the school and things like that, I feel like that's given me an opportunity to do so because like I'm realistic enough to know that like my body physically can't handle this forever. But like being a trainer and things like that, it gives me longevity to where like anything that I didn't like about wrestling, I can sort of like mold and change things along the way to where like I can still let my students and carry on and they can carry on with whatever I've taught them. So like it's like I said, it's hard to pinpoint any one thing I would change, but I feel like whatever there is to be changed, like I feel like I have a good stance where I can be a part of that.
I like that. It's a good. That's a good. That's probably a really good answer. I got a cool question. W- Give me one wrestler that you would love to get in the ring with, past the present. If you could pick one.
Ooh, the answer I've always given on these interviews was Tiberius King. That's my trainer, and then that's somebody I always wanted to have a one-on-one match with. Uh, he passed away last year, so I never got to have that. Um, but I feel like I've had like interactions with other wrestlers who I would love to mix it up with. Like I said, I'm a lifelong Eddie Guerrero fan. So like the next closest thing would be Chavo, and I had the chance to meet and chat with him. I think it was last summer. I did one of his seminars. And he was in the area, so it was cool to like talk with him. And then he brought up the story of the match of Eddie Guerrero and Brock Lesnar, which it's on my T-shirt actually. But like, yeah, it was one of my favorite matches of all time, and like just to be able to chat with him about that story. So like knowing that he's still actively out there in wrestling, I feel like that's a dream opponent for me, just because of my fandom of Eddie Guerrero.
Let me ask you a question. Last time we were talking to Robbie Vegas, and we had good talk, but then like we stopped the cameras, and then we started talking about all this other stuff, and we were like, wow, we should have recorded this. It was just random stuff. What was the craziest? Have you ever been in like a real crazy situation on the road?
Where like fans have been wanting to fight me and things like that. Yeah, like that's and that comes with the territory of it. You gotta kind of got to expect that, like depending on how well you play your character. I was in a part of a fans bring the weapons match about 8 years ago, and they had to
Wait,
put
so hold up. Fans bring the weapons match?
fans bring the weapons match. Yes,
Yo, that's crazy. I'm
and
feeling that.
they had to actually put out like a notice of like no guns, no firearms,
Yeah.
no knives or anything that could kill me. It's like, wow, like it's that serious. Like,
That is crazy. You think how nuts? There's some crazy. I mean, fans and not just wrestling. It could be any sport. There's just people that take it to the next level. You
Sure.
know, and you have, like you said, it comes with the territory. You just have to be prepared, I guess.
through my experiences, wrestling fans are such a much different breed than anything else I've ever experienced, and like it never gets old. Like any show I do, it's different fans, a different environment, in different towns, and like you get to meet all these different people, and like much like I have my story, you guys have your story. Everybody else has their story, and like they all like these fans. They want to be a part of it. They want to interact and things like that. And you meet all these different people, and you realize like I've met some of the best wrestling fans, and I met some of the worst wrestling fans, and I met some overall crazy people. And like but every time I'm on the road, every time I'm a part of wrestling, it's an adventure. I like constantly making new stories.
So like that was so going back to the weapons match, what happened? People got all crazy after the match?
No, it was just so how it went down was they had a shopping cart in front of the venue, and then you show up, whatever weapon you brought, you drop it in the shopping cart, and then they wheeled it out to the ring during the match, and then that was just we had our pick of the litter with that.
That's
Yeah.
that's all. Yeah, I've heard of stuff like that, but not to that extent where you have the shopping cart. That's pretty incredible, man. I gotta say that is that's pretty nuts because there are fans and like going back to wrestling fans, like some wrestling fans are just like the most incredible people in the world. I mean, it's just like anything. You have some wrestling fans that are insane too, but just some incredible wrestling fans like that I've known throughout my life. Like me and Joe talk about like our uncles and stuff, like Bruno Sammartino, dudes like that. Like those guys were so into it for Bruno Sammartino. Like, yo, the Italians burnt down the block around Madison Square Garden when he gave up the title, to Koloff. Like that's the level when Albano was managing. You know, that's the level of insanity. Like I used to know this lady, this old Trinidadian lady, Granny. She was an old grandma. She watched wrestling on levels like the intensity that she took it. It was just so incredible. Like there's something about wrestling fans, the passion. It's just like it's pretty great. Of course,
That's
that's
so.
Yeah,
a double-edged sword.
That's
You get some lunatics in wrestling who are really, but the whole, quote unquote marked out shit, like I'll mark out, dude. If certain things going on in wrestling, forget it. I could watch a video from 30 years ago and start marking out, watching some like Saturday Night Main Event shit. Like seriously, because that's the
yo.
power of
My,
wrestling. Has this like overwhelming thing to its fans. So that's awesome, man, to be a part of that. Really,
yo,
really.
yo, guys. My great grandfather. He used to watch the wrestling. He put his chair right next to the TV. He was like 2 feet, and when they used to do stuff, he was Italian. He had a very his he couldn't really talk English well, so his dialect was crazy. But he'd be so close to the TV, and when someone did something, he would be like, "Oh, oh," like he was. It was like he was. It was so, like you say, he was so into it that I used to just look. I'm really young, and I was like, he's nuts. Like great grandpa's crazy, but he was so into it. But he was such a calm man in real life. So stuff like that, that how wrestling could make you, whether you're a fan, whether you're at the arena or just even home, is like it's almost like no other sport that could take it to that level. You know what
yeah.
I mean? I don't know. It's really
Unbelievable.
cool, man.
Yeah, that's good, man. What's next on your plate, bro? Are you doing any matches soon?
I was supposed to be in the Albany area this weekend, for Immortal Championship Wrestling. I had a prior engagement where we're going to be a part of the Buffalo Bandits. They have the lacrosse team in Buffalo, so they're hosting wrestling night. I'm the Empire State Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, so I have to do an appearance there. But it's going to be a big event. Like their events draw anywhere from 12 to 14,000 people, so it's a good chance to get some exposure on us. And then I'm wrestling. I'm wrestling the following day in the Elmira, New York area for Excite Wrestling. I'm part of one of their tournaments there, and then I've got a pretty full calendar for the next couple months. So yeah, I'm trying to keep as busy as I can.
That's awesome, man. How far is Elmira from like New York City?
From New York City, say at least 5 hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a track. It's near Albany, right?
No,
Buff-
Elmira's near
Buffalo.
about an
Close.
hour away from Binghamton.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Way up.
Yeah. Yep. That's awesome, man. Um, I'm trying to. I had some other questions for you, but I'm blanking right
Oh,
now.
I got one for you. What's your favorite finishing move of all time?
Favorite finishing move of all time? I'm a Guerrero guy. So it's got to be the frog splash, right? Or
Oh,
like
that's classic.
I'm a big Undertaker fan, so like the Tombstone Pile Driver is a big one.
Tombstone, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a Tombstone's a good one. Torture Rack was a good one too.
yeah,
Torture Rack. That
yeah.
was clay. He used to crank it like and honestly, Iron Sheik Camel Clutch. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But like most wrestling fans related to what they know. So like you mention wrestling to anybody, and like the first move they're gonna think of is the Stone Cold Stunner, right, or the RKO, or things like that, or it's like things like you don't have
Your
to be a
arrow
wrestling
from
fan to know
what
who Stone Cold is or things like that.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
also depending on your era, right? What you know what you grew
Yeah,
up on or what was your favorite wrestlers. But yeah,
yeah.
so many of them though. What about you, Joe? Do you have one a
I,
favorite finishing
I
move?
think I think when I was a kid, the thing that scared me the most was like like a DDT, because if somebody did that to you in the street, you're done. Like that
Yeah.
move's fucking done. Or
That
like
is.
power drivers like Paul Orndorff when he power drive people, I was like, yo, that shit's brutal. Like that looks like you're gonna snap that dude's spine. I think those were. I mean, I like like the Scott Hall's what was it the Razor's
Razor's Edge.
Edge. That's a dope.
Yeah.
I like
That's
that.
a good one. That's a
Of course,
good one.
camel clutch, the figure four leg lock. There's that's a basic one, but like some of them, like I think are it just depends. It depends on the wrestler. Like like the RKO, like you said, or the Stone Cold Stunner, or stuff like that. Like for Stone Cold, that's the most incredible. Like you couldn't think of it. Like what else would his finisher be? It's like all about him doing that to people. Um,
Right.
so, like you said, the people you see doing it the most, that's probably who you relate to. But that's cool how everybody has different ideas about the finisher. I just like it to be a really truly a finisher, because sometimes you see guys doing a finishing move to somebody like 5 times, and then you're like, how are you still walking? Like you're messing up my
Yeah.
psychology.
It's
But
not
what?
really a finishing move at that point if it doesn't finish the job.
Right, 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 right. But yeah, man. But to finish it off, bro, what's your message to wrestling fans and to everybody everybody who's your fan and beyond that?
Just keep loving wrestling, keep supporting you guys, keep supporting the independents. The independents of wrestling, like we don't have the machine behind us. We thrive off fan support. So like that's the best thing that's the best thing I could say to anybody is just keep supporting the independents. Go to shows, watch shows, buy merch, buy tickets, anything you can do to support independent wrestling.
That's
That's
awesome,
dope.
bro. Make that a little video in itself, bro.
Yeah.
Anyway, Vince, thank you, bro. I know you're busy. Thanks
And
for coming.
we're
Yeah.
sending this your way, brother.
All right. Hell yeah.